Luke Mankus is a realtor. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011, and he always says, yeah, one regret, and that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time. 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273 to chat with Luke about real estate.
So I'm here this morning, very early. It's 4 a.m. here on the West Coast, and I'm here with Nick McCullum. And Nick is the Director of Growth at Passive. Passive makes innovative portfolio management software that connects directly to your brokerage account, and it makes it easy to implement long-term investing strategy. So we're going to talk to Nick this morning. And did I pronounce that correctly? Passive?
Yeah, that's right. Passive.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on the show this morning. Tell us about Passive. And first of all, how did you get involved with this company?
I've worked, I guess, in professional investment management for pretty much my entire career at this point. So I went to school originally for a math degree, and it turns out that a lot of the good internships and summer jobs for students studying math are in finance or accounting or technology. So the first summer after I went to college, I got a job at a large mutual fund provider here in Canada called TD Mutual Funds. That was a really cool opportunity because in the same office, you had exposure to people doing all sorts of different investment strategies. So in one corner, there was someone doing fundamental equities. In another corner, there was someone doing bond trading or bond investing. And then elsewhere, there might have been someone doing something as synthetic or something as exotic as synthetics or derivatives. So that was a really cool experience. And then after that, I took a job after college working at a fundamental equity research firm down in Houston, Texas. So we were doing deep dives on individual stocks, trying to figure out, their competitive advantages, what their management team was like, and whether or not they had good growth prospects and reasonable valuations, those sorts of things. And that's kind of brings me to Passive. So one of the co-founders of Passive, Brendan Wood, went to school on the same scholarship as I did. So we met through the same scholarship alumni network, and I've kind of been following their business ever since Brendan founded it because of our relationship in that way.
Nice. So what year was that when you connected with Brendan?
Well, so I've known Brendan, I guess, since 2014. Passive was founded in 2017, and I joined the team in 2019.
I see. So are you a partner in the business?
Yeah, we're an employee-owned company, and I'm one of the partners.
Nice. How many people do you have now?
We have 11 people working with us in different capacities.
Oh, cool. So was there anything when you were growing up that kind of led you towards the finance industry? Or is this something you kind of picked up through school?
I grew up on a farm, so we kind of had a really strong agricultural family, I would say. We were always doing chores around the farm, and the farm was a family business operated by my dad and my uncle, so his brother. So growing up, we kind of always had exposure to entrepreneurship in that way because agriculture, small farms, small business is like definitely a form of entrepreneurship. And that aside, I would say I always kind of just had the entrepreneurial bug. I was always trying to find little businesses or little things I could do to make money, whether it was, buying a 12 pack of Coke for $5 and selling them for $1 each, or even just silly little things like that. So I've always been interested in business. And it wasn't until I was older and I got exposure to the stock market that I realized that you can really kind of make a career out of studying businesses and investing.
Clients in New Brunswick or all over North America?
Our clients are global, I would say. So we operate basically a technology platform that connects to your brokerage account and makes it easier to implement a long-term investing strategy. So I can tell you more about the details of Passive afterwards, I suppose. But since we're a software product, we really do have a distributed customer base. And I would say the majority of our user base is in Canada. A lot of the remainder is in the United States. And then we have some international ones too.
Mm-hmm. So the market's open Eastern time. Most of the markets you're dealing with, or are you dealing with European markets and Asia as well?
We do deal with kind of Asian markets, European markets, and we're about to launch an integration with the largest brokerage in India as well. So we'll be dealing with a lot of the brokerages that operate in Indian Standard Time. But like I said, the majority of our user base kind of is in North America. So the EST exchanges are kind of what we deal with primarily, like you said.
Right. So it's the name kind of indicates that it's something that you can set up and leave. But do you have to be up at all hours of the day and night to monitor the markets?
I think probably the best way to understand how Passive helps to save you time on managing your portfolio is to really understand like the problem that we're trying to solve for people. So Passive was like the original prototype of Passive was designed by Brendan Wood, one of our co-founders, in response to real problems that he was encountering when managing his own investment portfolio. So Brendan was managing his own retirement account. He was also managing the retirement account of his wife, and he was managing 2 education savings accounts for his kids. And for each of those accounts, he had a different target portfolio that he wanted it to be invested in due to different time horizons and risk tolerances. And managing all of that became very tedious. He basically had a monster spreadsheet where he would put in his current holdings and his new contributions, and the spreadsheet would tell him what he needed to buy or sell to get invested in his target portfolio. So that did the trick. It did tell him what he needed to buy or sell, but even then he had to go back to his brokerage and enter in all of his trades one by one. This is where the idea for Passive came into existence. So Brendan's original prototype read in all of his account holdings from his brokerage account so that he didn't have to do any more manual data entry. And so in the years that original prototype launched, we've since progressed way beyond that. So what Passive does now is you create a Passive account, you pair that Passive account to your brokerage account, and then you set a target portfolio. Once that's done, Passive does all of the calculations that tells you what you need to buy or sell to get invested in your target portfolio. It presents the trades to you, and then it allows you to rebalance into that target portfolio with one click. So a really basic example would be something like if you were invested 50% in Apple and 50% in Tesla, and that was your target portfolio, and then Apple went up and Tesla went down, and now you're at 60-40, Passive would present you with trades that says you need to sell some of your Apple to buy some of your Tesla to take you from 60-40 back down to 50-50. Click here to rebalance. So you click, you get rebalanced. We send the trades off to your brokerage. They get executed, and then they send us back trade confirmations. Once that initial rebalancing is done, we monitor your account every day and send you drift notification emails, which are just emails that tell you when your portfolio's accuracy has drifted below a certain threshold. So that's kind of like the 50,000 foot overview of how Passive works. But to answer your question specifically, you don't have to monitor your account once it's all set up in Passive because we'll send you all of the notifications that you need to stay on track.
I see. So how is that ratio determined? Like you suggested, hypothetical 50-50 Tesla, Apple. How does that percentage get determined in the first place?
So that's all user specified. So at this point, we're not actually in the business of helping people decide what they should be invested in. But once you've actually decided the portfolio that you want to have, Passive is a really good tool that you can use to help you stay invested in that portfolio for the long run.
I see. So when I've dabbled in the market before, I tend to be a bit OCD, and I refresh my screen and I want to see what's happening in real time. And I've wasted money on these by constantly tweaking and constantly, buying and selling and thinking, somehow I can predict the market, what's going to happen. And haven't really had a lot of discipline to kind of let it sit and just watch it grow in the long term. And do you find that that's a problem with a lot of people, or are they able to just set it and forget it and just deal with it like once or twice a month?
There's this great saying that, that people say your portfolio is like a bar of soap. The more that you touch it, the smaller it gets. So
Right.
I think you're totally right in that there is a lot of merit to being a hands-off investor, and I think
Mhm.
people do tend to touch their portfolio more than they should. So yeah, and to say it succinctly, I think you're completely right.
Yeah. I mean, is there any tips you can give people to, kind of not do that, to stop touching it and to just, because you see something go down and then I have the tendency to second guess myself and say, well, maybe that was a mistake because it's been, drifting downward since I bought it. Maybe I need to sell that. And then, how it goes. People do that and it keeps shrinking.
Yeah, so I would say there's two kind of main things that I do that really help me. The first is that I always, when I buy something, I write down my reasons or my thesis for buying it. So that way, if it starts to go down, I can go back and I can reread that and say, okay, the price is going down, but has the thesis actually changed? In other words, are the reasons why I originally bought this still true today? And if so, I probably shouldn't sell it. So that's one thing. Another thing is I think there's a lot to be said for just deleting your brokerage app off of your cell phone. We have so much access to real-time information and headlines and news today. It can be a
Mhm.
good thing, but I also think, what do you think happens when all of a sudden investors have unprecedented access to information? They get the headlines right to their cell phone and they can trade stocks in their pocket. It doesn't always result in the best decision making. So I'm a big fan of just deleting that off your phone if you really don't need it on there, and kind of just letting your portfolio do the work for you.
Right. Now, do you guys give actual advice or is the software kind of designed to, match your goals and suggest a portfolio? Or are you having conversations with people like the old school, Merrill Lynch, those brokerages where they would talk to their clients and talk about stocks and things like that?
Yeah, we are not at this point giving investment advice in any way. So right now, it's just a tool that you can use to manage your portfolio. What a lot of people end up doing is there are financial advisors out there who publish public model portfolios for people. So people will take those model portfolios and use our software to make the implementation of it very easy.
Mhm. And how do you get clients? Like, who is your user base primarily?
Our user base is, broadly speaking, they're young professionals, 30s and 40s kind of, and people who have high incomes but pretty demanding jobs. So they don't actually have the time to handhold their portfolio through all of the ups and downs. So you can think doctors, lawyers, those sorts of folks. And
Mhm.
people find us just generally through the internet. We've appeared on lots of podcasts trying to promote the product and share how it can save time and money. People find our website on Google search or what have you. And a lot of it's kind of just inbound in that way, which is great for us.
Hmm. So the person needs to have a brokerage account to begin with.
Yeah, that's the first step. You need to have a brokerage account. It has to be funded with some money. Then you can pair that brokerage to passive and start setting up your target portfolio.
I see. And so you said you have clients all over the world. Is there special legal requirements if you've got like an American customer, for example, or
All of
is it
the
just software that?
Yeah, it's just software. So all of like the compliance and regulatory requirements get satisfied by the brokerage. And once that's done and your account's opened and all of that, then passive is just a software tool that you can use to manage your account.
Okay, and it's not just stocks, right? It can manage all kinds of.
Yeah, so we do stocks, bonds, and ETFs, and to a lesser extent, also mutual funds and other things.
Mhm. And is it a subscription-based service?
Yeah, so we don't take any money out of your brokerage account or anything like that. We wanted our pricing to be as simple and as transparent as possible. So our pricing is very simple. It's just $99 a year paid with your credit card. And
Mhm.
we don't take, like I said, any money out of your brokerage account or anything like that. It's just a credit card payment like Netflix or Disney Plus.
Okay. Has the software had many upgrades, like iterations, or is it still basically the same as when he created this?
Yeah, we iterate on the software like pretty much daily. We do new deployments, so we're tweaking little stuff all the time. A lot of it might not be visible to the user. It might be stuff that makes it run faster on the back end or new database things. But we're kind of always in constant iterations. In terms of really broad feature improvements, we're probably on version 4 or version 5 of the software, depending on how you count it.
Hmm. And what's your role at the company? Are you doing sales or the tech side of it?
Yeah, so my job title is director of growth. I have a pretty wide mandate of helping some of the software engineering efforts of helping code up new features in the product, and then I also handle a lot of our marketing activities like our blog and trying to reach out to people for partnerships and those sorts of things. So it's pretty cool because I get to work on a lot of different things, which always keeps me on my feet. And yeah, it's an exciting job for sure.
Cool. And you've got a website, Nick, and you offer some courses. I'm looking here and it says Python fundamentals, Python for finance and data science, algorithmic trading using Python. What is that? What is Python and what's that all about?
So Python is a programming language. It's the programming language that I am most familiar with. And it is really commonly used in finance and data science as a programming language to help work with databases and large data sets. So Passive is actually built largely on the Python programming language, at least our database backend is. And I kind of, growing up and then learning to code was a really big benefactor of other people who were willing to share knowledge on their websites. So that website's just kind of a way for me to give back when I learn interesting things or find interesting things to write about. I can just put it on the website and hopefully other people benefit from it over time.
Yeah. So you're actually teaching courses or?
Yeah, those courses were projects that I built before I joined the team at Passive. So I'm not actively kind of working on new courses at this time. I have many ideas for stuff that I might build once my time at Passive's done. But right now we're kind of like laser focused on building our product for the time being.
Yeah. And do you trade in a lot of stocks yourself?
Yeah. So I actually use Passive to manage my own portfolio. My portfolio is kind of like probably 90% ETFs and the remainder in stocks. And that's just because now that I'm a bit older and I have some money saved up, I kind of see the benefit of the diversification that ETFs provide. So the 90% that's in ETFs, it's not just like S&P 500 real broad diversified. I do use those ETFs to kind of express my economic views to some extent. So I have, for example, a technology ETF that invests in technology stocks because I'm a big believer in technology and it's an industry that I'm really familiar with. I also have a couple emerging markets ETFs because that's an industry that I'm really bullish on. So lots of interesting things in that portfolio. And then on the stock side, I have a few stocks that I'm just really highly convicted in, like Microsoft and Facebook, for example.
Right. Do you play in options or futures or currency at all?
Not currencies or futures, but I have done quite a few options trades over the course of my career. For a long time, I used to write covered calls on all my holdings, which was a great source of extra income. And then I also, I've done leaps, so long-term anticipation options or whatever they're called. So those are just call options that you buy that have a really long dated expiry date, and they behave almost like the underlying stock with a bit of like extra juice. So basically, you can buy a stock, if the stock goes up 5%, the leap might go up 15%. But similarly, if the stock goes down 5%, the leap might go down 15%. There's lots of math, and that's not a perfect example, but it's basically like a higher leverage way to bet on price movements on a stock.
Mm-hmm. So maybe just give a quick overview for listeners what an option is. I know what it is, but is there an easy way to explain that for people who might own ETFs or mutual funds? What is an option exactly?
So an option is the right, but not the obligation to buy or sell a security at a specific price on a specific day in the future. So that's a lot of jargon. So I'll just give you an example. If you had a option that was a call option, which means the right to buy, and it was dated for March 1st, and it was a Facebook call option with a strike price of $300. This option gives you the right to buy 100 shares of Facebook on March 1st for $300 a share. So that's kind of like a basic example. There's all kinds of different types of options, but the two main ones are call options and put options, which are just buy options and sell options. The nomenclature is a bit different than just buy or sell for some reason, but that's kind of like the 50,000 foot overview of the world of options.
Mm-hmm. So if you write an option, you're basically selling that option to a third party.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
You called it a covered option. So what is a covered option?
A covered call is
covered call.
Yeah, a covered call is a specific option strategy where you are the seller of call options on a security that you own. So basically, the idea is that you are exchanging some of your upside in the stock for more income now. So an example would be, so if you had Facebook stock, for example, let's see where that's trading at right now. So Facebook's at $270 right now. If you sold Facebook call options that had a strike price of $300, that means that your maximum upside is $300. So if it goes up beyond $300, you'll still be forced to sell it at $300 to the person that you sold the option to.
Right.
But the trade-off for that is that when you sell the option, you actually get some money for it. So it's all about kind of expressing your view on whether or not you think Facebook will go up beyond that $300 price or not. So in the best case scenario, your Facebook stock goes up to $299.99. You don't have to sell your shares to the option holder, and then it goes up above 300 the day after it expires. But that's, of course, not usually how it plays out in practice.
Right. Covered option means you actually own those underlying shares.
Yeah, you could also do a naked option, which means you don't own the underlying shares, and that's a lot more risky for a number of reasons.
Yeah, so if the stock went up, you have to go buy that stock at the current market price and deliver it to the option holder. That's a naked option. That's interesting. And is it true that most options expire worthless?
Yeah, the majority of them do, but I would say it's also a wide distribution. So most expire with a value of $0, but many expire with the value of a lot of dollars because of the way that options are kind of high leverage ways to make trades on securities. So options can change in price very quickly because of the way that they're exposed to the underlying securities price movements.
I see. And do you do that all the time?
No, I actually haven't traded an option in a long time, but it's something that I used to do. And it's definitely an interesting exercise that I might get back into someday when I have more time.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what is a typical, can you hear that cat?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
What does a typical workday look like for you?
So we, despite the coronavirus pandemic, we're still operating out of an office, which is really awesome. We have a really high caliber team, and it's great to work with, such character guys who are also just a bunch of big brains. It's kind of wonderful. I learn a lot from the guys I work with. So I'm still happy we're working in the office. So I usually roll into the office around 8 or 8:30, and we have our Scrum meetings. So every day we kind of meet up as a team and share what we're working on and ask for help from anyone who's, might be able to help us with stuff that's blocking us. Right now, we're working on a couple big integrations with new brokerages. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on lately. So that's a lot of just, heads down computer programming and really focusing on that. And then, from time to time, we'll have meetings about marketing. I'll do podcast interviews or business development calls with people. And broadly speaking, I would say my time's kind of probably 70% spent coding or working on new product development and 30% meeting with other stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. So if you if you integrate that software with the brokerage's software, does it look like passive software, or does it just look like TD or Bank of Montreal?
Yeah, so we're kind of a one-stop shop once you're integrated with us. So if you're integrated with passive and you have brokerages elsewhere, you never have to leave passive to manage your investments. You stay within the passive platform to do all of your rebalancing, and it's great that way. And that kind of is great, especially for people who have investments at multiple different brokerages. So if you had some of your investments at Questrade, for example, and then maybe for whatever reason, maybe you used to work in the United States, but you had some of your investments at TD Ameritrade down in the States, you could actually integrate with both of those brokerages with passive and manage all of your investments in one spot.
Oh, cool. Do most Canadians, they're trading on the TSC, I guess?
Yeah, most Canadians are trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And then in the States, a lot of our volume goes through like the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ.
Mm-hmm. Is it hard for a Canadian investor to trade on NASDAQ or NYSE?
No, not really. If you open a brokerage account with any of the major providers here, like Questrade or even like RBC Direct Investing, TD Direct Investing, they make it very easy to trade on the exchanges in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And do you like books or audiobooks? What are you listening to or reading right now?
Yeah, so I'm a big book guy and a big audiobook guy, and especially I'm a big podcast guy. So I'll go through, I guess, each of those and tell you kind of what I've been reading lately. So on the book side, I just finished the Elon Musk biography, which was super interesting timing because I started that book right before he was named the richest man in the world. So interesting timing for sure. That was a pretty inspirational book because he just works really hard. I have never read about anyone who has that quality of work ethic and just ability to kind of suffer through really hard periods of life. So that was pretty inspiring. I'm also reading a book called Facebook, which is just about the early days of Facebook. So another kind of inspiring entrepreneurial book. On the audiobook side of things, I listen to audiobooks generally when I run. So A lot of the audiobooks I listen to are about athletics or training or those sorts of things. So I really like the audiobook Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It's really good because after each chapter, David, like the actual author, kind of comes on with the audiobook reader and has a little chat about the contents of the chapter. So that's like bonus content that's not actually in the paper copy of the book. So that was a nice surprise when I got that book. Really like that one. And then on the podcast side of things, I use podcasts to really kind of keep my professional skills sharp. So I listen to a lot of software podcasts. The software podcast, Software Engineering Daily, is a daily podcast about software engineering. And it's really, really great listen. I listen to that as much as I can. And I also like the podcast Invest Like the Best by Patrick O'Shaughnessy. That's a great podcast about finance and entrepreneurship.
Awesome. So Nick, what's the best way for people to find out about passive and how it can help their portfolio management?
Yeah, if you're curious about how passive works, I would encourage you to just go create an account. We have a free version that you can try out with no obligation to ever pay. So our website's passive.com. That's passiv.com. There's no E on the end of passive. And if you have any specific questions, you can just email me at nick.mccullen@passive.com.
Perfect. We'll put links right into the show notes so people can find it easy. I like doing that because if someone's on a treadmill or they're walking, they don't have to type anything. They just thumb tap the link and takes you right there. So that's great. We did this, we've done over 170 episodes now when it was more face-to-face here in Kelowna, British Columbia. We would ask the guests if they wanted to nominate someone that you would enjoy listening to on the show. And we didn't really talk about that before. But I don't know if there's anybody in your world that you would enjoy hearing on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually, if you're interested in talking to someone who I think is like a true polymath and just really good at a lot of different things and really curious and generalist at heart, you should talk to our co-founder, Brendan Wood. He's done everything from high performance computing to investing to real estate to Bitcoin mining. He's a really interesting guy to talk to. So if you want a connection, I can hook you guys up for a podcast interview if you'd like.
That's perfect. Well, Nick, thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. And we'll get this episode out and we'll send you links and you can share it.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke, and appreciate the opportunity to come on the podcast.
Okay. Have a great day.
You've been listening to I Love Kelowna. We love where we live. And how can you not? With all the provincial parks, pine forest, vineyards, orchards, mountains. On each show, we have in-depth, intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, execs, thought leaders, and creatives, all that make up Kelowna. You can support the show so we can keep producing by going to paypal.me/Luke Menkes. And make sure to visit the official website at ilovekelowna.buzzsprout.com. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we hope you had some fun along the way. We'll be back soon. Until then, this is I Love Kelowna signing off.